Speaking of Cults podcast is presented solely for general informational, educational, and entertainment purposes. The use of information on this podcast or materials linked from it is at the user's own risk. The views, information, or opinions expressed by the host and guests are solely those of the individuals involved and do not constitute medical or other professional advice. Hello and welcome to the Speaking of Cults podcast. I'm very glad to have you here with me this week. And we are going to address a very, unfortunately, very common false piece of information that is forwarded, floats around out there. People say this all the time in the comment section of my videos about cults, in the comment section of other videos about cults. I have seen this said on other social media platforms. This has been spread around by people who I'm just going to have to say have no idea what they're talking about. And this particular line that we are taking up today and discussing as a whole topic for this show, because I feel it's that important, is the idea that people have to be stupid, low IQ, morons, in order to join a destructive cult like Scientology or the Jehovah's Witnesses or NXIVM. You'd have to be an idiot to not see through what those people are all about. How could you not see what's so obvious? There could be a lot of reasons why people might say things like this to the victims and escapees of cults, but none of those reasons are valid. Not one of them. Not one time, not one instance. I'll go all the way out on a limb and say there is no good time or reason to ever say that to somebody, that they are stupid, moronic, low intelligence, idiots for having done a thing, and especially for having joined a destructive cult. Now, in order to sort of counter this, I have put together some points here today that we're going to go over that are an effort to educate on why it is that people join cults. Because the fact of the matter is that not one person joins a destructive cult on purpose. Not one person ever knowingly dives into a pit with stakes at the bottom of it to their death. Not one person would do this if they were in their right mind, of course, right? Now, obviously, mental illness could be a factor, but that has nothing to do with intelligence either, does it? A person who is thinking clearly and rationally would never, ever do something that would have long-term destructive consequences to their life. They do these things, they join these groups, they get involved in domestic abusive relationships as well, because they believe that the person that they're, or the group that they are becoming part of or joining up with, are good for them, are positive influences in their life, are something that they need, or that there is some problem that they are trying to solve, and they're solving it this way. And often the way that the information is given to this person, the victim, the way it's presented, the way that they perceive it or understand it, is very, very different from the reality of what's really going on. They are, in other words, deceived, manipulated, lied to. And it's not just low IQ people who can be lied to. If we're being honest, and this show is all about being honest about these things, all of us lie to other people and are lied to all the time. Social white lies, of course, are one level of this and the most common, but we all use manipulation techniques to try to get our way, to try to convince other people that we are right and they are wrong, and to try to make our way through life. Otherwise, we would simply be buffeted about, so to speak, by the currents and vagaries of life. And so if you're going to take charge of your life and be in the driver's seat, then you're going going to have to get other people to go along with what you want sometimes. And that's, doing that is manipulating them, but it's not necessarily destructively manipulating them, but it is still manipulation. And there are still deceits and lies and that sort of thing involved. In other words, obviously, what I'm trying to say here is that we are all subject to manipulation and deceit and lies all the time, all throughout our lives. Advertisers do it to us, companies do it to us, individuals do this to us, opinion leaders, people that we respect and admire do this to us, and of course, people that we hate and revile try to do this to us. And when sometimes the basis of our hate or our revulsion is that we know that that is what they're trying to do, is harmfully influence or hurt us. And when we can see it, it's then very obvious to us. It's super obvious. Look at that guy. He's an obvious manipulator, right? Maybe because we already got burned or we're watching other people get burned. But that doesn't put us in a position of ultimate judgment over everybody else who can't see what we can see. Because I guarantee you that if you are a human being, there is some area or aspect of your life that you are not really being upfront and honest with yourself about. And we all do that. We all compromise for the sake of our emotional needs, for our happiness, for our purpose, for having meaning in our life, and that sort of thing. For the sake of having a social network at all, we have to compromise all the time. So it's always part of our social, standing and our navigation through life that we are going to, come across people or situations that look like one thing, and then we find out it's actually something else entirely. And then we feel, sometimes, some of us, feel in a position of superiority for having discovered that. And then we want to lord that over other people. I'm superior because I can see the manipulations and the deceptions and this kind of thing. And people can let that kind of thing go to their head, and they start making judgments about other people as a result. And that's why I'm doing the show today, is because I'm sick and tired of those judgments. Right? It's not right to do that to other people, for so many reasons. So let's go ahead and go over a few things here in terms of answering this question, what does intelligence actually have to do with being in or staying in or getting recruited in to a destructive cult like Scientology, like NXIVM, any of these things? Well, it can be a factor. Intelligence can absolutely be a factor. But the truth is, according to my own observations, and this part here is nothing but my opinion, but I believe that it is the case that the more intelligent a person is, the more susceptible they are to joining a destructive cult, not less. Because very, very, very few people's intelligence is directed toward understanding the red flags of manipulation and coercive control, for one. Very few people understand what those terms even mean. And how the anatomy of coercive control, what is that? How does it work? What do you do? How do people go about coercively controlling other people? We can say, well, they lie, they gaslight, they're narcissists. But those are just catchwords and phrases that if you don't understand them, you really don't know what you're talking about. And it's important that you do know what you're talking about, which is the whole reason why I'm doing this show. I'm not trying to, invalidate people, but I'm trying to make the point that it's not enough to just know a couple pop psychology words or ideas and think that you have a good full grasp of this stuff. There's actually a lot more to know. And that is using your intelligence. That would be using your intelligence in the direction of armoring yourself against predators and deceit and manipulation. And that's the kind of thing that you could use your intelligence for that would guard you or protect you against, predators. So that's how intelligence could possibly be used as a factor. But most of the time, people's intelligence can become a bit of a false armor in that they feel that they're so smart or they're so observant or they're so on top of things that nobody could ever really fool them or get one over on them or something. And this ties into this is the crossroads of intelligence and ego. And these two things don't always come together so well for people. Intelligence might, as I've made some notes here, may influence how individuals process information and perceive their experiences within the cult. But other factors, psychological, social, and emotional factors, play far more of a role in how and why people get involved in cults, okay? So let's run through some of these today and see what these things are. Because the fact of the matter is that even highly intelligent individuals can fall prey to cults due to factors such as vulnerability, social influence, cognitive biases, emotional manipulation, information control, and gradual indoctrination. So let's talk about these things. First off, in terms of psychological vulnerabilities, people go through traumatic or very, very important or significant changes or episodes, you could say, or crises in their lives. There are varying degrees of this. People moving out of home for the first time are experiencing an incredible environmental change and often let it go to their head. They go off to college or they go off into the workforce and suddenly they have all this freedom and woohoo, right? And off they go. This could make a person vulnerable because they are in a new way of living, a new mode of life, you could say, right? Everything's different now. They're the ones who are 100% in the driver's seat, making all their decisions for themselves without anybody looking over their shoulder. And here come the predators ready to prey on them and their ignorance and inexperience. Right? Not their lack of intelligence. They can be incredibly intelligent people. They could be going to MIT, but they're in a new place. They don't have friends. Their social network has been disrupted. They are emotionally uncertain of what's going on around them. And here comes somebody with a helping hand to help them out and lead them through the path of uncertainty and give them the answers that they're looking for. And it just so happens that that person is a narcissistic predator and takes advantage of that person and eclipses their life and their determinism. So that happens, and that happens all the time. And that's just one example of a time or a context or a situation where somebody could be manipulated, be more open to it, in fact, even invited into their life because they know that they're in this place of uncertainty or vulnerability. A divorce, a loss of a loved one, right? A massive change in a person's life, of being fired from a job that was very important to them. All of these present situations where a person will be thrown for a loop. They didn't expect it. It was unpredicted. Even if they knew it was kind of coming, once it hits, it's still, oh God, here it is now, right? And they have to deal with that. And people sometimes don't deal well with these kind of changes. And they can become open to the support and understanding of people who do not necessarily have their best interests in heart and are really not offering support and understanding. They're just sort of cosplaying at that. They're just play acting at being a supportive person, but really they're trying to take this vulnerable person and get them into their cult. This used to happen in Scientology all the time, for example, when people would walk in and they would have some very big problem they were trying to solve, some very big emotional crisis they were trying to deal with. And I remember people coming in and sitting down and being in tears over these things. And here was the Scientology recruiter with the L. Ron Hubbard book in hand and ready to take their money to sign them up for a class that would solve everything for them, right? Put them on the path to spiritual enlightenment. And most often, especially at the beginning levels, it didn't even have to go that deep. It was more a matter of, let's solve this immediate problem you have right now. We're not selling you a piece of blue sky. We're not selling you a bridge to total freedom. We're selling you a solution to the problem you're telling me about right now. That's all you care about. Hey, that's all we care about. We're here to help, right? This is what the Scientologists would say. So psychological vulnerabilities are a key way that people can be wrangled into these cults. That they just don't, and they have no idea when it's happening because they're in a vulnerable state. They don't necessarily see or appreciate what's actually going on around them. Another aspect or another factor involved in why people join destructive cults that has absolutely nothing to do with intelligence is social influence. 75% of the people who joined Scientology did so because a friend or family member brought them into the church. They didn't come in through a personality test off the street. They didn't buy a book off somebody selling off the street or at a swap meet. A friend or a family member said, you could use this. I want to show you something. I want to take you down there. I want to, whatever sales pitch they used. And Scientology, by the way, is one of many cults that gives its members a step-by-step of how to get new members in. They actually have a little formula you follow, and you do these 4 steps, and that's how you get new people into Scientology. And those 4 steps do work. So social influence can be a powerful motivation for people to join cults. Human beings have a strong need for social connection and acceptance. That is an emotional need we have. It's not a desire. It's not an option. It's not something that, oh, that'd be nice. We feel an emptiness inside ourselves that only other people can fill through intimate relationships and partnerships or marriages, through friendships, through clubs and hobbies and activities, through our work, through social or sporting events and clubbing activities, and any other way that we all get together. Those get-togethers, those relationships are needs that we have. One of the horror stories that we've seen in literature and movies for years and centuries has been the lone island, the person stranded alone in space, marooned on an island, left alone to fare for themselves with no contact with any other human beings, is pure. It's a form of torture. Solitary confinement in prisons is pure torture to a person. Why? Why is that? Why would that be? That just the absence of other people, other contact, communication, why would that be so vital to us? Why would that be so devastating when we don't have it? Because it's an emotional need. That's why. That's what that term means. We are emotionally driven to have that. And to the degree we don't have it, we are unhappy. That's a fact. It's an objective, provable, observable fact. So, because that's such a cold, hard fact, it is absolutely a factor in why people join cults, because cults are groups, little mini cultures that offer community, that offer support, understanding, entertainment, enjoyment, happiness. All of these things are front loaded in the cults. That's the experience you always routinely have at the beginning. Is the love bombing we've talked about, that you may have heard about, where cults will go way out of their way to make you feel so good, so welcome, so warm. You found your new home. You found your tribe. You found your people. There are very few things in the world that are more satisfying to us than that feeling of warmth and acceptance and joining something that we think is going to be amazing for us. That is, these are very, very powerful things because they are so basic to what makes us human beings. So in addition to the camaraderie and the social standing and whatnot, right? You might also have a person, because of social influence or under this heading, you might also have people join cults because of the cult leader and the social influence that they clearly have. There's something interesting, exciting even about being close to somebody who exudes charisma and power, who has that kind of influence in a room, who's larger than life, whose very presence comes across even in photos or film or video. And people are drawn to that. They are attracted to it like magnets. And that also is social influence. The other thing to comment on in terms of social influence is the fact of what we call social proof. And this is a form of influence that basically is about if other people see it, hear it, experience it, feel it, we feel we should too. If you're in a room and 8 people, with 8 other people, and they're all saying how wonderful and amazing something is, you are going to feel naturally inclined to want to understand and agree with these people. I just said 8 randomly, 10, 5, whatever, right? Any group of people. This has been replicated in social science experiments thousands of times over. So many variations of this experiment have been done where an individual will find themselves disagreeing with the other people in the room, but they won't be able to express that disagreement because of the social pressure, what we call social proof. All these people are saying red is green. They're looking at a color swath of red, and they're saying it's green. You look at it, you go, that's red. But they're all saying, no, this is green. And you're gonna wait a minute, what's going on here? Am I in the Twilight Zone? What's happening right now? Right? You're gonna feel very weird. That's social proof. That's that pressure that comes into play because all these people are saying something's true. Therefore, it must be true, but you can see it's not, but maybe it's you. How could it be that all these people are wrong and you're right? That is very, very powerful to us, that motivation. Some of us can stand up to it in certain circumstances. Some of us can't. In any circumstances, it's very wildly variable for people from one to the next as to how they're going to react to these situations. And a lot of it has to do with how invested they are in it, how emotionally connected they are with the question or situation, and if they've spent money on it, things like that, right? Which we'll also get to, because that rolls into what we call cognitive biases. Okay. In other words, you're inventing or coming up with, this is where your intelligence can be your worst enemy. Because our intelligence is always influenced and monitored by how we use our intelligence, is monitored by what we believe, what we think is already true, and what we want to be true or what we want to be false. Our desires and our emotions have everything to do with how we use our intelligence. And when we use it to rationalize or justify things that aren't true merely because we want them to be true or we need them to be true, that could become, or we could be using what are called logical fallacies. We start thinking illogically. We're connecting dots that don't connect, or we're saying this is upside down when it's not because I need it to be, because emotionally that's where I'm coming from, right? That kind of thing. There basically, cognitive biases are systematic patterns of deviation from rationality. How's that for you? Right? Cults exploit these biases, these wrong ways of thinking that we have, to manipulate and control their members. For example, confirmation bias leads individuals, you might have heard of this term, confirmation bias. And it will lead individuals to seek out information that confirms their existing beliefs while ignoring contrary evidence. I don't want to look at that. I don't want to see this thing that's going to disprove that I was the number one employee this month or something, right? Or let's go back to cults, right? Like, okay, here I am talking to a Scientologist, and this Scientologist believes that L. Ron Hubbard is the bee's knees and everything that anybody could ever ask for in a guru, and was somebody who cured himself of his war wounds. There you are having this conversation with the Scientologist, and you go, L. Ron Hubbard didn't actually cure himself of his war wounds because he didn't have any, because he never actually saw combat. And this Scientologist would look at you and go, no, that's not true. And they are not going to buy into that just because you said it. They're going to go, no. I've got this whole other biography of L. Ron Hubbard that the church gave me, and it's very clear that L. Ron Hubbard very much did that. And you then pull out evidence and say, well, here's the records of his war activities according to the Department of the Navy, which he was part of. And here's his records, and here's what it says, and here's the dates, and here's the times, and here's where it was. Oh, no. Says Mr. Scientologist. No. That's not true. None of that is true. You are lying to me. And in fact, that is a false record that was just invented and spread around on the internet by Hubbard's enemies. And in fact, he was actually a covert agent in the military, and they had to create false records of his war activities because he was an undercover operative, right? They're just inventing this whole story, and this is actually what I'm telling you right now is literally what the Church of Scientology has put out, or Scientologists have put out, is they will go and invent an entirely different story because they cannot accept the truth. They reject the evidence. They won't even look at it. They won't think about it. They won't engage with it. They can't, because their emotional needs are driving their intelligence, so that their mind, their rational thinking brain, is coming up with every reason they can possibly imagine to invalidate the facts that you are presenting to them. This we call confirmation bias. It's a bias, right? It's a foot on the scale pushing things in a direction they shouldn't be going. So cognitive biases, logical fallacies, these are the order of the day when it comes to living and being part of a destructive cult. Then there's emotional manipulation. And this is big. This is real big when it comes to destructive cults. They are all about manipulating your emotions. And it's been said, and I fully agree with the statement, that we are not thinking creatures who feel. We are feeling creatures who think. And that's the order that it goes in when we are navigating our way through life, is we are feeling our way through life. And our frontal lobes, our rational mind, our brain, is used to justify and rationalize our emotion-based decisions, right? We feel a certain way and we act on those feelings. We feel hungry, we go get some food. We feel sad, we go get some food. We feel, different ways, and those feelings drive us to act in different ways. And then our brain catches up and justifies why we're doing those things. Cults often use emotionally charged tactics to recruit and retain members. They may employ love bombing, where new recruits are showered with affection and attention to create a sense of indebtedness and obligation. Fear tactics. See, fear is just as much an emotional tool in the cult leader's toolkit as love is. And fear tactics, such as warning of imminent apocalypse or dire consequences for leaving the group, can also manipulate members into compliance. It bypasses thinking. You're feeling your way through. And there is no one who will encourage emotion-driven behavior harder than cult members. If right from the very beginning, at the recruitment stage, they will say things to you in order to get you and encourage you to act on your emotions rather than stop and think about what you're doing. It feels right, doesn't it? It's fate that you ended up in here today, and we are talking. It was meant to be that you walked in our door today, and we are here for you. And of course, you need to sign up for our services or join our group or put on our robes, because doesn't it just feel like the right thing to do? You know, this kind of approach, right? I'm not being a very good cult salesman today, but this approach is 100% what they're about. Don't think, right? If you go think about it, you're going to be in the same rut you're in right now. You're not going to solve your problems. You're going to talk yourself out of it. What you need to do is sign up right now. Go with your feelings. You know this is the right thing to do. Do it. That is emotional manipulation at work. All right. Now, another aspect of, and very, very unappreciated by the general population when we talk about cults and you start talking about how this stuff works, is information control. It is not generally understood or appreciated that when we are exposing what cults do, when we talk about in Scientology, when we talk about Xenu, and you talk about all these crazy spacefaring, science fiction beliefs that Scientology has, people will hear that, and that's the first thing they hear about Scientology, and they think, well, that's stupid. Why would anybody join that? Well, if that was the first thing that I heard walking into Scientology, I wouldn't have joined either. But that's not what happened, because they control the flow of information to you. They don't give you the crazy stuff on day one. When we cult survivors and ex-cult members talk about our experiences in the cult, we talk about the abuses, and we talk about the nonsensical beliefs, and we talk about all of that up front. Because we want you to get right away that all the nonsense that the cult feeds you is nonsense. They're lying to you about what they do, who they are, what they believe, how much money they're going to really want from you, amongst other things. They're telling you a parade of lies at the beginning. And anybody is capable of being lied to. And all you got to do is believe one of those lies, and you can be manipulated into signing up and joining the group. So it's not a matter of informed consent. It's the exact opposite of informed consent. And that's one of the most powerful ways that cults manipulate people, is they are not honest and upfront with people at the very beginning. And we live in a society, and we generally agree that informed consent is not only important, but necessary to any decision-making process. You need to understand the consequences of what you're getting involved in. And the thing about destructive cults is they have worked out phrasing and language and descriptions and ideas that sound like they're telling you what they're all about, but they're not. And if you are a critical thinker and you're listening carefully to what's being said to you, you will see through that. Maybe. Okay. And finally, the last bit here, as terms of sort of disproving this intelligence, this low IQ thing, is the fact that the indoctrination into a group is gradual. It's a boiling water situation where you have a frog and you put the frog in the water, but you don't throw him in when it's boiling because the frog would jump right back out and would live. No, 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 no. What you do is you put the frog in the water when it's still cool. And you just start slowly turning it up. The longer it lasts, the longer you keep him in, the longer he thinks things are okay, and they're okay, and they're okay. And then suddenly, wait a minute, things are getting a little uncomfortable here, but it's not too bad. See, and this path of things getting gradually worse, the intellect is operating full time during this time period of involvement in the cult to make it out that this is the right thing to do. This is the right place to be. The person is very, oh yeah, they're selling themselves on it and they're being sold on it by the other people in the cult flat out, right? So they're able to ignore, put aside, not pay, any of the red flags, any of the sort of, well, it's getting a little hot in here. Yeah. No, not at all, really. No. It's not getting hot in here at all. It's just becoming a little warm. And warm is good, isn't it? Because it means you're excited and that your blood is flowing and that it's red hot in here and we're making positive changes in your life, right? And you're like, yeah, it is a little warm, but, that is a good thing, isn't it? Like there's this, there's the reframe. There's the way of making a bad thing into a good thing. And those red flags become green flags. And you carry on down the path. In Scientology, for example, you're sitting there doing their training routines where you have to sit and stare at somebody for hours on end. And the first 10 minutes can be, pure hell. And you go, man, I don't know if I can keep doing this. This is really, really hard. I don't think I want to keep going. In fact, I think I want to just go home. Oh, no. See, that feeling you're experiencing right now, everybody experiences that. That's what you have to push through. There's a better place on the other side, see, and you just have to keep going. This is exactly what I'm talking about when I say that the water's getting warmer and warmer and the person is sold on why that's a good thing. Oh, okay. Well, I'll just keep going then, and I'll just keep being put into a hypnotic trance, and I'll just keep being put into this altered mental state where you can more easily manipulate me, right? But that's exactly how they do it, is they take a bad thing and they turn it into a good thing. And you stay, and you stay, and you stay until the water is so boiling that it destroys you, right? And that's your gradual indoctrination, bit by bit, piece by piece, step by step. You find yourself in a situation that you never, ever agreed to be in, but you didn't know on day 1, 2, 3, 4, or even day 100 just how far down the rabbit hole this whole thing goes and how far in you would end up going before you start realizing things aren't so great. So those are sort of the short and sweet list of reasons why people become involved in and stay in a destructive cult of any kind, any flavor, any type, whether we're talking about, abusive domestic partnerships or gangs or an abusive workplace environment or maybe a religious group or other culty situation. Whatever it is, whatever the situation is, these are the reasons why people sign up and start. And I hope, having heard this today, you will never, ever, ever again accuse anybody of doing something silly or stupid like joining a cult because they're morons. Because that's not ever the reason why. And by the way, one last thing to say about this before I wrap up is, no destructive cult out there wants morons and low IQ people as members. I mean, if you think about it for a second, cults want smart people. They want able-bodied people. They want active people. They want people who can manage their way through life, because those are the people who are going to help bring in new people and manage the cult. So So cults don't even want stupid people. So it's really quite harsh and judgmental and invalidative of people to be running around saying things like that. And I personally believe that it kind of comes from ego trips on the part of people who may be more vulnerable to this kind of cult indoctrination or influence than they may realize. So just something to think about. Thank you very much for coming around and listening to me gabber on about all of this. I want to remind everybody that I offer consulting services if you need any one-on-one consultation regarding a cult experience you may have had. You want to understand coercive control better and how it might apply to your life, or you are a friend or family member of somebody who's involved in a coercive situation and you don't know what to do, contact me. Let me help you, and let's work it out. I have helped lots and lots of people over the years with these kind of situations, and I can help you too. So you can reach out to me via my website or my YouTube channel. And on that, I will see you guys next week. Bye-bye.